9.5a, we are now going to talk about sine and cosine. Up until now, we have talked about tangent. So, first review question: what is the funny word to help you remember how to set up a tangent equation? And a tangent is toa. Toa. Number two, which side of a right triangle do you not need for a tangent? And that is our hypotenuse. Our TOA is our opposite leg over our adjacent leg. So we don't need the hypotenuse for the tangent. So first we're going to talk about our sine ratio. The sine ratio is the ratio of the opposite leg to the hypotenuse. Or in this case, we say so, S-O-H, so, opposite over hypotenuse. So here, our sine, which we use so to remember, which is our opposite over hypotenuse. So we chose A. The opposite of A, the side is CB. Our hypotenuse is always CA. If we chose angle C, our sine of C is AB over our hypotenuse being CA. Next, our cosine ratio is the ratio of the adjacent leg to the hypotenuse. So in cosine, we use ka, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the entire thing to remember is SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. SOHCAHTOA. Here, our cosine of, let's say, A is our adjacent, which is BA, over our hypotenuse, which is CA. Our cosine of C is our adjacent, which is CB, over our hypotenuse, which is CA. That is what we do. So the whole thing is SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. So let's try this out. Write the sine and cosine ratio of each acute angle. Leave and reduce fractions. So let's do first, the acute angles are angle Z and angle X. So let's do sine of Z. Sine is so opposite over adjacent, so that opposite over hypotenuse. So that is 20 over 25. We can reduce that by dividing by 5, which gives us 4 over 5. Our cosine of Z is our adjacent, which is 15 over 25, divide by 5, and 5, which gives us 3 over 5. Okay, so then let's do sine of Z. So sine of sine of X is then opposite over hypotenuse, which is 15 over 25. If we already divided that, that's 3/5. Cosine of X is then adjacent, which is 20 over 25. We already reduced that, that's 4 out of 5. Next one, we want C and A. So sine of C is 36, opposite over hypotenuse, 45. We can divide by 9. That gives us 4 out of 5. My cosine of C, which is then adjacent 27 over 45, we can divide by 9, which is then 3 over 5. Now my A, sine of A, which is what, 27 now over 45. We've already reduced that. That's 3 over 5. And if my my cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's A. Adjacent is 36 over 45. We've already reduced that, and that is 4 out of 5. Let's try it out some more. Let's see here. Write the sine and cosine ratio of each acute angle. Okay, back once again. We have this. This looks awfully familiar, like some numbers we've already worked with. But let's write your answers as reduced ratios. So let's do C, sine of C. This gives me opposite, which is 36 over 45. I know that reduces to 4/5. Cosine of C, then, is 27 over 45. That reduces to 3/5 if I use my ABC button or divide by 9. And then my sine of A, which is then, well, opposite, which is 27 over 45, which is 3/5. Cosine of A, which is then 36 over 45, reduces to 4/5. Okay, let's look at number 4. Okay, we got some different numbers. We got C and we got A. We want sine of C, let's start with C. That is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 48, divided by 50. They can be both divided by 2, which gives me 24 over 25. Cosine of C, which is adjacent, that gives me 14 over 50. Divide by 2 gives me 7 over 25. Finally, the next one, sine of A, opposite of A is 14, so 14 over 50. We already reduced that to 725. Cosine of A is then the adjacent, which is 48 over 50. We already reduced that to 24 over 25. Okay, next, we know the side lengths of all 4 angles so far. If we know an angle, then we can use our calculator to find the ratio, the big or small ratio of what it can be. So this is, we're just using our calculator. And we want to round it to the nearest tenth. So remember our angle, and we round the calculator to nearest tenth. So our sine of our angle is equal, remember, to the opposite, because it's so opposite of our hypotenuse, and our cosine of our angle is ka, which is adjacent to our hypotenuse. So ka toa. So here, let's try some of this out. Use a calculator to approximate the value. So we're just going to punch in sine of 35 into our calculators. And this gives me 0.5736 to 4 decimal places. Cosine of 45 gives me 0.7071. Cosine of 100, punch that into a calculator, 0.9848. And cosine of 5 equals 0.9962. We'll definitely be going over in class on how to do this.